Hello there, and welcome to Remembering Who You Are. This is the official curriculum for the Worthy Self, the part of the Worthiness Sanctuary that is focused on the self, focused on the most important relationship you have with anybody. The relationship with yourself sets the tone for not only the quality of your life, but it also informs every other relationship that you have, your romantic relationships, your relationship with your parents, your relationship if you are a parent, your relationship with your children, your relationship with your siblings, with your family, with your coworkers, the relationship you have with yourself is the foundation for your life. And so the title, Remembering Who You Are, is very apropos because as it relates to worthiness, it is essential for us to be aware that we're innately worthy. That means you were born worthy. You're worthy right now. You will always be worthy. There's nothing you have to do, nothing you have to earn, nothing you have to become in order to be worthy. As a spiritual being having this human experience, worthiness is an innate quality that you were born with. Whatever your religious or spiritual beliefs are, you were made in the image and the likeness of your higher self, of your creator, of the higher power that is responsible for you being here. And that higher power is complete goodness, right? And worthiness flows from that. So you are worthy of living a life that is in alignment with the qualities that flow from the higher power. You were born worthy, you're worthy right now, you will always be worthy. And so this is about remembering that truth. This is about peeling back the layers and remembering that truth. A little bit about me. I am Michelle Hollinger. I am the founder and creator of the Worthiness Sanctuary. I am also a sociologist, a social worker, and a prayer chaplain. Been on a spiritual journey for more than half my life. And I've been immersed in worthiness as a worthiness strategist for about a decade. And everything that I share in the Worthiness Sanctuary comes from personal experience. I took a journey from my unworthiness to my worthiness. And what I've discovered along that journey is pure gold. And that is what I share in the Worthiness Sanctuary. So let's take a look at what our objectives are for the Remembering Who You Are curriculum. We are dropping one module per month because we are taking a very deliberate, very intentional, slow pace with dropping content because it's so important to me that you not just um, engage with the curriculum, with the workshops, with the content, and feel good while you're receiving it, feel good while you're participating in it, and then go back to life as usual because it wasn't integrated, because the content wasn't embodied. And so, this approach by dropping one module a month gives you an opportunity to sit with this information for an entire month, right? We are looking at what psychologists say about it taking 21 days to establish new information as habitual, right? And so by using one module a month, we're dropping one module a month, but I'm breaking it into weekly segments so that you get 1 week of content that you can sit with and integrate and allow to go deeper, right? And then at the end of the third week, when we're preparing to go into the fourth week is about integrating what you received in those first 3 weeks. I'm sorry, the first 3 weeks. So the fourth week is about just kind of reflecting on what you received in the preceding 3 weeks and allowing yourself to integrate it, embody it, and hopefully make it a part of your consciousness in a way that really helps you to peel back the layers and to remember, to really come away from this experience remembering who you really are, that you were born worthy, you're worthy right now, you will always be worthy. Okay, so the learning objectives for this entire module, the first module, include understanding what unworthiness actually is and what it's not. You'll begin separating who you are from what you experienced, recognize the survival patterns without shame, experience your first embodied moments of self connection. Might not be your first, but your first in this space. And that ultimately, what I hope is that you'll feel safe enough to continue the inward journey, because connecting to your innate worth is not something that happens with external any external focus. The focus has to be within you, because your worthiness rests within you, and there's nothing outside of you that can connect you to your worthiness. Absolutely, positively nothing outside of you that can connect you to your innate worthiness. You get to do that. And it is my hope, it is my desire, it is my intention that this module, that all 12 of the modules over the course of the next year will help you to peel back the layers and to remember who you really are, remember who you were born here to be. So let's get into week one. Week one's theme is welcome home to yourself. When I say welcome home to yourself, again, you're innately worthy. So that worthiness is already inside of you. And so what we're talking about now is the difference between your worthy self, which is the truth of who you are. It's where your authenticity resides. Your worthiness, your authenticity, they are foundational to the truth of who you are. So your worthy self is your true self versus the adapted self. Who is the person that you felt it necessary subconsciously to become in order to navigate the spaces of your life, right? So if unworthiness is a factor in your life, it is because there was some experience from birth to whenever, somewhere in the time frame of that you've been here already. Typically something that happened in childhood, though. Typically something that happened in childhood, because as children, especially between the ages of birth through 7, and now they're expanding that to age 12, our brains are like little sponges. And the people in our lives who are the authority figures are our parents and our caregivers. And as little children, just the way our brains are created, we don't have control over our prefrontal cortex, which is where our conscious decisions are made, right? And so everything that we're receiving when we're children, it is just being soaked into our brains. It is being soaked into our minds. It is being soaked into our consciousness, right? And because our brains are goal seeking machines, right? When we're little kids, what we receive from our environment becomes a belief, right? It lands in our minds and it becomes a belief. It lands in our brains, it becomes a belief, right? And because what we believe is what our brain holds true for us. Our brain and our mind assumes that whatever our belief system is, that this is what we're interested in manifesting in our life. And so because the brain is a goal seeking machine, it seeks out experiences to confirm to you that what you believe is true, right? And so on the positive side of that, if a belief in um, that you are capable of manifesting your dreams and goals, of the belief that you are smart, that you are worthy, that you are capable of doing things with the the skills and the talents that you are developing in your life, right? If that is the belief, and fundamentally, if the messaging and the energy that you got from your parents and your caretakers, if the belief is that you are worthy, right? Then your brain is seeking out experiences to confirm to you that you are worthy. Conversely, if you've been given the message that you're too much, that you're not enough, that you are not allowed to show up in this space as your authentic self, you're quirky and you got these, you know, whimsical qualities about you that get shut down, right? you are forming a belief that you're not enough. You're forming a belief that you're unworthy. You might not use those exact words. You're not unworthy, but you're forming that belief in your little mind, in your little brain, right? And because it becomes a belief, it becomes a belief that I'm not enough. It becomes a belief that I'm too much. It becomes a belief that when I show up this way, that's not accepted. And so I am not allowed to show up as my authentic self, right? That becomes a belief. And so your brain, being the goal seeking machine that it is seeking out experiences to confirm to you that those beliefs are true, right? And so, as it relates to the adapted self, we, based on the feedback that we've gotten in our environment from the people that we love and who love us, and are doing the best they can with what they know, in most cases, right? And if parents are instilling unworthy beliefs in their children, the likelihood is that their parents instilled unworthy beliefs in them, right? And the whole smorgasbord of beliefs that flow with that unworthiness realm, right? Um, and so the adapted self is the person that we felt it necessary to become in order to feel accepted in certain spaces, in order to feel like it was okay to be coexisting in these spaces, in order to make sure that the people who are our caregivers, that they are pleased with how we're showing up, right? We get our cues from them. We pick up on their body language. We pick up on the facial expressions. We pick up on the tone in their voice. We pick up on the verbatim messaging, if that was the case, right? Sometimes it's not verbatim, but that the way something is said, has an underlying message, and we pick up on that energy, right? And so we adapt into that person that is acceptable in those spaces. And when we adapt away from our worthiness, we're adapting away from our authenticity, right? And that adapted persona is the version of ourselves that we feel is necessary for us to function as, right, in our childhood. And then if that remains constant, we are still adapting in adolescence. We're still adapting in our 20s. We're still adapting in our 30s. We're still adapting in adulthood, right? And so there are, oh my God, millions of people operating under the spell of unworthiness, unwittingly, unknowingly. Because if you have adapted to something other than your authentic self, unworthiness is very likely the culprit that made it necessary for you to believe that you needed to adapt and become a distorted version of yourself in order to feel safe and okay in certain spaces. Earth School as a curriculum, not punishment. And so, having said all of that, right? So, where you are now in your life is answering what is called divine discontent. If you are indulging in the worthiness sanctuary and you are listening to this first module of remembering who you are, it is because something inside of you was no longer willing to believe the lie of unworthiness. Something inside of you has directed you, has guided you, has propelled you forward into a space of peeling back some layers and getting to the truth of who you are. That is divine discontent, right? Because the discomfort with navigating life under the spell of unworthiness has you going to a job you hate. It has you tolerating toxic unhealthy relationships. It has you selling yourself short. It has you shrinking, settling, distorting yourself. It has you people pleasing, suppressing your authenticity, suppressing healthy anger, uh, dimming your voice, dimming your light. It has you showing up as a distorted version of yourself. But here's the deal: when you start to wake up to the truth of who you are, right, based on divine discontent, all of that discomfort, all of the angst and the frustration and the regret and the frustration because you can't figure it out, because you know you're capable of more, but for whatever reason you have not been able to figure it out. that comes under the guise of under the label of divine discontent. It's information, and we all get that information, right? Anybody who's grappling with unworthiness is getting information to let them know that, listen, you are not in alignment with the truth of who you are. You are not in alignment with your authenticity. You are not in alignment with your innate worthiness, right? And that is good news. That you are here means you are listening to the divine discontent. You are recognizing that you are misaligned. And with the information, you get to do what is necessary to become aligned with your authenticity, to become aligned with your innate worthiness. And so I'm saying all that to say that when you start to wake up to the truth of who you are, right, you can start to view your childhood and your adolescence and all of those experiences that convinced you that you were unworthy as earth school. Because when you were able to look back on those experiences and start to look at how unworthiness factored into you distorting yourself, how unworthiness factored into creating this block between you and your authenticity, between you and your innate worthiness. You can see how you were showing up as this distorted version of yourself, right? And you can understand, you can start to become an archaeologist in your life and start to take inventory, right? And start to see who you really are versus who you became in order to survive those spaces. You can start to see who you are from a space of your worthiness as opposed to the adapted version of yourself that you became. And so when you are able to view your past that way, it becomes your earth school curriculum. You get to go back as the archaeologist and take the inventory and do the understanding and to look at the environments that you were in and understand why it was necessary to become a people pleaser, why it was necessary to dim your light, why you felt it necessary to distort your authenticity or to deny your authenticity, why it was necessary for you to become the adapted version of yourself in those spaces. When you are able to look back at those experiences, right, and begin to understand them, that becomes your earth school experience. And there's value. And there's value in your earth school experience. It's not punishment, right? It's not punishment. If that you are here indulging in this curriculum means that you are on a path to really remembering who you really are, awakening your innate worthiness. It's already in you. You just need to connect with it and allow it to flow freely in, as, and through you and inform how you show up in life, right? So what you experience to get you here becomes your earth school curriculum. Okay. And so the other thing that's important to touch on is that the journey inward, it is so sacred. It is not selfish at all. If someone wants to call you selfish because you're spending more time with yourself, if someone wants to call you selfish because you are, investing in meditation or journaling or just doing things alone. Maybe you're having to turn down some invitations to some family events or some social events, right? Because you're spending more time with yourself, because you're interested in discovering who you really are. That's not selfish. That is sacred. And because you are a spiritual being having this human experience, going within is what connects you to your innate worthiness, your authenticity, your spiritual nature. So it's totally not selfish. It's completely sacred. And I hope that you are able to see it that way. So I want to remind you that you've never been broken. You've been becoming. You've been becoming from this whole time. And it is my sincere prayer, my sincere desire that you are able to arrive at a place where you actually really are able to accept and integrate into your consciousness that everything that you experienced from the time that you were born until where you are right now, regardless of what your age is right now, right, was a part of an earth school curriculum that your soul was complicit in selecting, right, to prepare you to stand in your truth now, to stay to allow you to align with the mission of your soul, to take from the experiences that you had, what you need to take from them to discover who you are, to discover what your real qualities are, right? You've never been broken, you've been becoming. My pastor has a song that's called All of Life is a Movement Toward Our Wholeness. And the song itself is absolutely beautiful. And the lyrics just really reinforce that every single experience that we've had, right, has been designed to keep us moving forward. Some of it may feel like, we were stagnated and we were stuck, right? And even in those moments where we felt like life was stagnated and life was stuck, there was still some movement happening, right? There was still some movement happening that we were not aware of, that we could not see, that we could not fathom, that we could not comprehend, right? There was still some movement happening. And from a retrospective perspective, looking back, right, and seeing who you were and why you needed to become those distorted versions of yourself, and understanding why it was necessary. Oh my God, you get those years back. If you feel like those years were stagnated and stuck, you get those years back. The more you understand why it was necessary to become who you were back then. And so one of the features that is common throughout all of the modules are these reflection prompts, because this is not just about me yapping throughout the whole curriculum. This is about you taking the time to ask yourself questions and to spend time with the questions and to just go deep with them. So the reflection prompts for module one are: what has your life taught you about what you needed to be to survive, right? When I did my work around this topic, I had to look at why I became a people pleaser, why I used to self sabotage, why I used to dim my light, why I was so intent on shrinking. I wanted to be as invisible as possible, right? And when I did my work to understand why it was necessary because of the spaces that I was in, first of all, the degree of just love and compassion that I was able to develop for myself just grew exponentially, totally grew exponentially. Went from being my own worst critic to really understanding, why Michelle was the way that she was as a child, as an adolescent, as a young adult, as a wife, as a mother, as a woman, right? Understanding why I survived the way that I did was big. And this question, this prompt is something to help you to really start to examine your own space, your own life. What has life taught you about who you needed to be to survive? And then the second one for this week is: what parts of you were asked to go quiet? My brilliance was silenced. I felt like my brilliance had to be silenced because it wasn't welcome in certain spaces. And because, especially as a child, we need to feel connected to the adults in our lives, right? We need to feel like we are safe with them. We need to feel like they approve of us, that we have their support, that we that they like us. We need to be liked by them, right? We need all of that. And if my brilliance was making people, and this was an issue for me, not just in not it wasn't so much an issue in childhood. It became more of an issue um, as a young adult, actually, um, teenager and young adult. But yeah, that's a really important question to ask yourself. What parts of you were asked to go quiet, right? And then at the end of each week, I'll ask you to consider the option of going even deeper with another prompt that really just helps you to peel back the layers. And with each of the prompts, I really strongly encourage you to journal about the prompts. You can either journal, um, actually, yeah, you the most effective way to journal these prompts is in an actual hard copy journal, or just on some note paper that you have, because there's a very spiritual, very powerful neurological connection between actually writing out content and being connected to your consciousness that is just like really beneficial for you. And so I just really strongly encourage you to journal that way. In other prompts throughout the sanctuary, throughout the worthiness sanctuary, there are prompts, journal prompts throughout the sanctuary, and there are digital spaces that you can actually type in your responses, your reflections, and they're totally safe. They are totally for your eyes only, and so you can do it that way if you prefer. So this week's deep prompt is: what does the word worthy stir up in you, emotionally and physically? What does the word worthy stir up in you? Okay. And then the last thing that I want to share with you is that we have in the sanctuary, in the worthiness sanctuary, tools to help you on this journey back to yourself, on this journey to remembering who you really are. And we're calling them sanctuary support tools. The first is breath work, just breathing in, holding for a few seconds, and then releasing is one of the most powerful things that you can do with your for yourself. Because when we are in stress, you know, something as simple as being in a traffic jam, um, or being new on a job, when we're in stress, we're not like consciously mindful of the breathing that we're doing. We one of the beautiful functions of our bodies that we don't have to tell ourselves to breathe. We just breathe automatically. But in a stressful situation, we tend to breathe in a very shallow way. Our breathing is very erratic, right? But we're not even aware of it. And the message that we're sending to our nervous system when we're breathing in a stressful situation is that we're not safe, right? And that this situation is not regulated, and so our nervous system will follow suit and become dysregulated as well. And so one of the most effective things that we can do throughout the day, and especially when we're doing this work to remember who we are, to remember that we're worthy, is breath work. And so throughout the sanctuary, we have what breathing stations, I guess we'll call them, that remind you to take maybe 2 or 3 minutes and to just focus on your breath. To do that inhale for about 4 seconds, hold for like 2 seconds, and then exhale through your mouth. And let the exhale be longer than the inhale. So the exhale will last for 6 seconds. The more you are able to incorporate deep breathing throughout your day, doing it every day, especially when you are in stressful situations. But if you can catch yourself in when you're not in a stressful situation and just in that moment, just indulge in a few deep breaths, you will start communicating with your nervous system in such a beautiful way. You will start to communicate with your vagus nerve, which is like the super highway that communicates not just to your nervous system, but throughout your body, that you are safe and that you are worthy, right? Connecting to your innate worthiness requires your um, nervous system to feel safe. The other tool that I'm so thrilled that is provided throughout the sanctuary are guided meditations. At the end of each module, there is a guided meditation that supports what was shared in that module, right? And so I really encourage you, I invite you to participate in those guided meditations. If you prefer to use a different guided meditation, there are tons of them on YouTube that, are basically really effective ways to, especially if you're new to meditation. If you're new to meditation, I strongly suggest a guided meditation to kind of be a bridge to that new practice. The guided meditations just involve you taking a few minutes to rest in a silent space where you can have some privacy, right? And they're just reminding you of some gentle truths that you can integrate into your consciousness, right? Because again, everything that you need to connect, to reconnect with your innate worth is inside of you. And these guided meditations are designed as a tool to help you to do that. Thank you, thank you, thank you for participating. Thank you for investing in yourself. Thank you for being a part of the Worthiness Sanctuary. Um, I think that's all I have for you for this first week of Module 1. I'll see you next week for week 2 of Module 1. Peace.